Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and welcome to this Future Friday where we end our series talking about dead and forgotten gods. And of course, in on Future Friday, we have to talk about one of the most common sci-fi tropes is coming upon a living world. Sometimes we just combine this with like a hive world or a hive mind of sorts, but yeah. Dead Man says living habitats like meat have. Yeah. Um Absolutely positively living. We've seen movies. I was just uh the other day it was suggested taking a look at Strange Worlds. It's on Disney Plus now. And yeah, absolutely positively a living world. And I wasn't able to find any really good imagery, but there are plenty of there are trying to get the chat. I'll just put the chat up next to me. Um, there's plenty of imagery with like tardigrades and things like that. The End King mentions, excuse me, there was a series from there's a living world that was a Green Lantern where there's the Green Lantern core has aliens from different sectors, 3,600 of them to be exact, with Io at the center of the universe. And of course, each Green Lantern gets their own ring. And although it's kind of funny that they're called lanterns, since not every alien culture might have something considered a lantern, but whatever. But that aside, a giant living planet with a giant living ring. Don't know how they constructed it, although they probably just created it with their mind. But it's still kind of a cool idea, right? Um, yeah, the Ant King says, imagine being Starfleet and encountering a species using crossbows, alchemy, and bloodletting. Yeah, very ancient civilization, total cavemen, but their spacecraft are far more advanced than yours. And uh, living living spacecraft as well is a big trope as well. Like, instead of having being constructed in zero G in the orbit of a planet, that an asteroid field itself might be globules of a living creature, and they are grown. There's plenty of like space whalings, um, creatures that live in space in a vacuum of space and such. And I think they kind of all of that uh, gets combined together. Hey, Wayne, what's going on? People who those of you who are able to participate in the show live are kind of the co-hosts here. So if you've got great ideas and you want to have any conversations, whatnot, you're more than welcome to join in the show. And Of course, this being the end of the week and it being Future Friday, we have to talk about some of the amazing imagery and animation styles and um, designs that people have in fantasy. We can absolutely use in science fiction, and even in science fiction, even in our science fiction um, image of what like the human anatomy looks like, and the brain and the stomach lining and skin and all that could absolutely be writ large, and then as players exploring those regions, like what does a human hair look like when it's the size of a skyscraper, or how do players navigate inside of a planet that looks like or has the attributes of veins and arteries and blood being pumped through it. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be humanoid blood at all, especially in science fiction. It almost never is. But it's also an allegory. It can be an allegory for us to tell stories. Speculative fiction essentially is a mirror to ourselves, and it could be talking about taking care of it. It often relates to taking care of the human body, or relates to a living world being like a hive mind, or it's a living organism, and taking care of it, that we should take care of Earth as well. That's often a good thing. Or it could be, explorers land on alien world. They land on alien world. They don't understand what's going on. They realize one system is related to the other systems. That there's some kind of homeostatic balance and whatnot, and the crew itself and their starship is throwing it out of balance. And when they find clues, they realize one clue leads to another one. And we kind of brought that up. Hey, what's up, TA? And um, absolutely relating this to maybe being able to find the brain of the planet, sometimes located in the middle of the planet, and or it could be calling to people psychically, or drawing upon their subconscious, or maybe having the clues to helping dying civilizations elsewhere in the universe and things of that nature. So yeah, absolutely. All the I think the idea of a sleeping planet or dreaming planet, or a planet that's not aware of the player characters as well when they land on it is a thing. And Voom, hey, what's going on? Spin a while. Spin a while since I could. Anyway, I used to, it's a '90s thing. I was always like, is he saying spin a while? Because that's like the kids, you know, um the that I don't know, that spin a wheel thing that kids used to go on and almost make you vomit when you spin on it too fast. Yay, finally Friday. Yeah. And Voom. You must be a sci-fi head. Yes. Um Stained, spin a while. Come on, you know the song. Maybe you're not a person of a certain age. Um anyway, getting back to living worlds. Um when he says, AI will be our future dystopian dungeon when you can't eat here because your social credit score is too low. We're just cattle to be used. Yeah, yeah, yeah. AI is getting. Um, it's not. Of course, again, it's not the AI that's scary. It's human beings. Yeah, they'll all sit and spin. Oh no, it's like I'm the one that made other. Oh, so it's your fault that had. No, it'll be fine. Just sit right here. I'll spin you around. Yeah. Which by the way, um, you know, talking about living worlds and living planets, there might be a reason for the player characters maybe not to do a thing before they get vomited back out into space or something, while navigating inside of a living world. That's a possibility. And what a great way to like use some kind of tension timer. The human body really does not like invasive anything invading it, and we have systems, uh, some good, some not too good, to evacuate things inside of our body that shouldn't be there. And like I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Swallow a chicken bone and it gets stuck in your throat, it hurts. But again, food poisoning, we've got some pretty larger orifices that'll try to get that crap out of us, literally and figuratively. And that that could be a very good like tension timer for the players to realize, like, uh-oh, I think the stomach, or what its equivalent in this planet, is going to try to get us out of here. We need to find the thing that's trapped in the thing, the MacGuffin that's immune to the stomach acid, to swim down there in our submarine or something to retrieve it before it really starts to gurgle and spray, uh, I don't know, the ulcerated stomach inside the monster, or being or something tries to evacuate them out. Definitely white blood cells coming after player characters, and however you want to describe them, whether they are uh, zero G globules that want to attach to mech suits and starships, and space suit wrapped crew, or whether they are like soldiers with cloaks and mechanized suits themselves, and going around trying to clean up the human body or something like that. Yeah, yeah. And Voom says, yeah, the people calling the shots about AI are way more scary than AI itself. Oh, absolutely, man. We need to do. I should have did one on just AI this week. Should have done that. Maybe we might talk about it next week, like as as a meta function because we did do a week of Chat GPT, but maybe we might do that. Just a armchair talk. Not, yeah, yeah, getting flung around. Rickard says, "This is our new cyber dungeon. Just follow the neon signs and you'll find the exit in no time. If it was still working." Corporate budget. Yeah, cutbacks felt the lighting the dungeon cost too much. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah, you can't. You thought you could get out, but you need to pay. What is it? DLC, downloadable content. You didn't do that, so whatever. Oh wow. When you say, remember when wetware was a topic? I always thought a built-in communicator would be cool. Yeah, yeah. There, I mean, we just live. Oh, there was a book series back in the mid '80s called Future Shock. Talks about like not being able to keep up with new technological developments because as it rises, it doesn't. It rises exponentially, not linearly, and human beings think in linear uh, methods. It's difficult for us to think exponentially. Yeah, Ann Voom says, "Yeah, I like the concept of attention die. Roll any dice and in so and so much time, things happen, and the players know that something will happen, but not what exactly. And as a matter of fact, I mean, you can listen, you can foreshadow things to players anyway. It's the idea of the classic dungeon. You go in a dungeon, there's a trap sprung, there's a skeleton, there's spears in it. Letting players know what's going to happen in the future, it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Gotchas don't work the way we think they should work, like a jump scare in a horror movie. Um, Players don't like surprises because we, as the narrators, storytellers, dungeon masters, are all we are their senses, and if they can't trust their senses, it's already limited because you can't show them the entire dynamic range of senses from our vision and smell and distance and time and feeling. So we only have description, and so that it feels like they have blinders on anyway. And then when you surprise them, it just doesn't feel right. So yeah, tension timing, I think, is an undersold tool that can be stolen from any game to use for any other game. Blades in the Dark calls it clocks. In ICRPG, there's a tension die. You literally roll like a D4 or a D6 to put on a table, and you just start to do countdowns. Whatever you call it, it's basically a thing to stop analysis paralysis. Because if players have all the time in the world, they'll just sit there twiddling their thumbs, imagining dangers and going over possibilities and not acting to allow that possibility to actually take place. Mm-mm-mm. TA is so funny. Um, Ricker says, "Isn't there an old French or Belgian cartoon about white blood cells flying around in machines to eradicate viruses?" I don't know. I just remember the movie, the animated movie Osmosis Jones, and it kind of did that. He was a detective, I think, who was a white blood cell, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Enki says, "Imagine a planet aiming a volcano at an orbiting ship." Um, Very much like a living planet, maybe trying to defend itself, or it has an atmosphere that is made up of like um, carbon dioxide because it's expelling gases. And it would be pretty cool to add some gaming mechanics to how the human body operates, whether they are um, filaments and tendrils inside of our lungs, or how the heart beats and causes a pressure to force the PCs to have to swim and navigate their ship, or swim themselves through these narrow openings and passageways, and getting lost through tributaries and needing to make the right turns, or else getting forced into other areas of the body of this planet that they didn't intend to get to, or being influenced by, being trapped by fibers that are like the muscles, and being zapped by neurons or and other things. By the way, I haven't finished it, but I did take a look at Strange World, and yeah, very much, very much, especially with the imagery and such. Of you could see that there are various living, uh, the an animated version of living systems, and each system incorporated with another system. Like, player characters tend to be pretty destructive, and having a world that's trying to repair uh, the destruction that is being caused by an invasive species could be pretty cool. Mm-mm. Yeah, TA says just rolling the dice and asking some odd questions, then saying, "Oh, nothing," to keep them tensed up, expecting something. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, that's an old DM trick where you start rolling random dice and you just like roll some dice and you ask them things, and you have this um unanswered inquisitive look on your face, like, "Oh, what's your dex?" Oh, okay. Sometimes that buys time, but we're specifically talking about a literal countdown, like what's up? Mothership does this. Um, uh, a I did a review of Dive, which is a mothership hack of deep diving, scuba diving down in deep oceans and whatnot. Um, uh, Shadow Dark has this. Five Torches Deep does this, and where they use real time meta time as a countdown for an in-world thing to happen. So, for example, in Dive, you have air tanks, and one air tank runs out every 30 minutes of real game time. And in Shadow Dark, you have torches, and your torch goes out every hour of game time. And so whether the player characters are moving fast or slow or whatever, it's still a meta thing. So it may feel like a torch blows out, in a deep dungeon quickly, because even though everyone's kibitzing around for an hour, they might not have moved very far. Their characters might have moved, or like in Dive, it's a supplement for Mothership. Maybe there's six scuba tanks, and one by one, the scuba tanks end up being useless or whatnot. Uh, so I think that's kind of cool. Mm-mm-mm. Seth talked about this. Sorry, just catching up with what you guys have to say. Good night. Anne says, so when a body decays, the gases building up sometimes mimic bodily functions. This can be used as a nice foreshadowing or building of tension. I think so. And and it it could tell the players, hey, listen, if you continue doing what you're doing, this might happen to you. It's the classic um, starship crew that has never been heard from before, and then you get the player characters get a microcosm of what might happen to them later on. So you have like dead crew members and corrupted files and destroyed starship and a place where it landed, but there's other dangers. Maybe some of the dead crew got out and they investigated something. Maybe they were taking tests and whatnot, and then of course those clues lead to, oh, this is what happened. um I'm trying to think of a movie, the only just because Fast X is about to come out, a Vin Diesel movie, uh, uh Pitch Black. It was a movie where they crash landed on a planet, and then investigation uh, showed them what would possibly happen. Mm. Um, so TA says, that's why I use the rule often of make the motion and the sound, and your character has done the action. So dice must be rolled because it is easier to act out than say verbally in action. Oh yeah, okay, okay. I get it. Like if you do the thing, sometimes if you just, I don't know why players or this, I don't know how fifth edition disrupted the simple concept of tell me what you're going to do, and then based on what you decided to do, you're either successful or you fail, rather than rolling dice. But yeah, Drew says I don't like the DM method to roll dice for nothing. It's a very old, um it is a meta gaming way to create tension, it's a cheat, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, but it's a cheat. It's much like it's the exact same way that what's the game? Dread. There's a game called Dread, and it's a Jenga tower, and you start pulling bricks to the Jenga tower. There's another game. These are horror games. So Dread is a type of horror game. Another one's called Ten Candles, and when you perform an action or you fail an action, you have to blow out one of the candles. You play in the dark. You have each person has 10 candles, and over time you start blowing out candles. It's a meta method of creating tension, and players assume something's going on when you roll dice. It's kind of the idea of make a perception check, right? The minute you ask someone to make a perception check, they already know that there's something there. Now, if they role play their character not knowing it, if they fail it, is one thing, but everybody knows there's something there. The minute you ask, hey, could you roll to see if you notice this thing that you might not notice? Then of course it lets everyone know. Um, yeah, it's just a it it alerts the players that there's something going on, and if you do it, you don't want to overdo it, but if you randomly do it, it's a way of going like, come on, people, we're not going shopping, we're not going to sit in the room, we're not going to sit by the blast door for 45 minutes while you decide to do something. Just do something, right? And for the most part, more often than not, we as game creators, it's like we didn't really have anything behind the blast door, but the minute the players start to just like, we're going to get hit with something, everybody prepare, right? Mm, mm, mm. Yep, yep, yep. That like I said, anything overused, extremes never work. So it's just one of a number of things that you shouldn't do, like asking people to always roll dice or never rolling dice or something like that. Yeah, TA says it works better if you have a list of not important to story but important to mood things that the dice rolls can be applied to, like footsteps that one can't see. Yeah, footsteps that one can't see anything walking, etc. Like descriptive imagery, dripping water, sounds, clanking in the distance, shadows, um, those kind of things. Voom says 5e has muddled a lot of things. The concept of passive perception and even investigation makes some players think they get things fed to them without them doing anything. Uh, Long before passive perception was the simple idea that player characters are professionals, and if there's no tension, then there's no need to roll. For example, I've always brought up the idea of how many driving rolls does one make when driving to and from work, right? Like, there's no rule. Very few games tell you exactly how many times you should roll the dice for inconsequential things, and most of the time they tell you not to do it. There should be automatic success in non-tension moments, right? And dice rolling should only be caused when you have tension. Like, for example, picking a lock, if there's no time tension, then you should automatically pick the lock. Because if you've got hours to work at it, you're probably going to pick a lock. Even a non professional person can do it. But if you got to do it in 30 seconds, yeah, and I'm not a lockpick person at all, I'm not doing it, right? So you, uh, the fact that they made it a mechanical thing, every capability every player character has ever had is passive. You I walk around the room and look under the bed. Great, you see what's under the bed, right? That's an automatic success. That's a passive investigation, that kind of thing. So I think people separate one from the other, that passive skills and your character's capabilities are all one and the same. Everything about players is a passive ability. Um, you're a great warrior. You look at the dead bodies, or I investigate the dead bodies. Great, you see that they were killed in a intergalactic battle with the alien species. I don't know, the Grimivores that use uh, microwave blasters or something, right? It's that's what passive skill temps are. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. TA is like, people forget the point of being a DM is to create fun experience for the players, and vice versa. Everyone is there to entertain and be entertained. Yeah, everyone's got that job. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a. People think that there's a direct link between the DM, the game master, and the player, where it's actually a web. It's you being intermingled with everybody else. Everyone's got a link with everybody else. N King says the idea of a Jenga tower being used for dice rolling is wild to me. Imagine a game where you had to do 20 push-ups for every check. Well, yes, but the skill at Jenga is is less about the skill and more about the tension, right? Because I believe there's a way to do it where you have different colored blocks. You have to pull a block that has a certain color or number attached to it and things like that. It's a tension it's a tension creator. Mm-mm-mm. The End King says that blast door bit is very real. It's like when your players just decide that the bartender is a secret murderer, and that becomes their entire quest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a real thing too, right? When players are just like they glom onto this weird uh, uh, you verbalized an aside, right? You're just describing it. Hey, there's people in the tavern. Hey, that's a general crew member. Oh, there's an alien species in the corner, and all of a sudden they just like glom onto it, and you just start rolling your eyes like, oh, yes, I know it's a sandbox world, but really, guys? Yeah. Yeah, Rickard says free tip. A low perception check might mean thinking you saw or heard something works great in a horror setting. Also, the reliance that people think that uh perception this is I didn't make this up. I heard this terminology through when Fate was really big, but I like this idea and using it for other games. And the idea is that when you're using a skill or attribute, you are not using any of the other ones. So it's a negative space value. So an example is that characters fifth edition has made people believe that perception is everything, and it isn't, because perception skill is not investigation. Perception skill is not history. It's not religion. So you may notice a movement, but you don't know what that movement is until you investigate it. And we've made perception an ability that's far greater and has expanded into things that it is not. So when a player says, "Oh, I've got a high perception," then you're just noticing things moving and being strange colors and sounds, but you probably don't know what they are, right? So if you're in a crowded room, oh, you notice that there's six different conversations, and there are wait staff in the party, and someone is underdressed and the other person, there's sweat rolling down their head, I mean from their temple, and you hear things clanking and blah blah blah, and you could differentiate them. But what the conversation is, no, you got to go listen to conversation. You need to investigate the waiter that's acting funny. You need to investigate the insight into why that person seems nervous. Why is that person underdressed? Are they a servant, or are they scared? Did they run from outside or something like that? Well, I think that's semantics there, Wayne. Wayne says, I just like the idea of passive perception. I also dislike the idea of roll dice to get metadata from the DM. That's not role playing. Um, it's semantics, right? When a player says, I'm going to check under the bed, what do I see? And you tell them, oh, there's a trap door that's under the bed. That's passive perception. That's that is not rolling dice to use a skill, right? That's my character is going to investigate this room, and I see scratch marks on the floor, and you go back and forth. That's what that is. That's not rolling dice. That's my character succeeded in attempting something by just them describing what they were doing. Um, it's just a semantics, and we're too in tuned with some. We get too much in the weeds with semantics that it's exact. The two are the exact same thing. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Ian says, I agree. I never let people roll without tension, but taking the spice away on things that can or cannot be found is sort of lame too. The people feel better when they roll the die and find treasure. Well, and one doesn't necessarily mean you get rid of the other. It doesn't mean there don't aren't two extremes, right? You don't have to go, oh, player walks into a room and goes, I make a perception check to find all the evidence in the room. The other one is, don't roll any dice, just walk around the room and tell me what you're doing and never roll dice. It could be, I check under the bed. Okay, since you told me that's what you're doing, great. Now roll the dice to see what you find, or if you find anything that's like the secret door that's flush with the floor, you can't find it, right? It's tell me what you're going to do, and then if there's tension, then we start rolling dice, and that tension could be internal or external. Um, External, there are guards walking around the you sneak onto the space habitat and you're trying to jimmy the door open before the guards get there or to be noticed. So you roll dice because there's tension. You need to get into the door and on the other side of it before something happens, right? As opposed to it, there's no tension at all. There's no time frame or whatever. Then why bother rolling the dice if failure of the dice just means rolling again, right? Um, Yeah, the End King says, in the future, perception will be truly be everything. Yeah. The perception will be how you perceive an attack coming at you and how you aim your weapon. Maybe it'll be like 5 stats. It'll be like vigilance, notice, perception, awareness, and I don't know, Satori or something. Right? I don't know. It'll just be all 5 stats will just be all perception. I perceive the attack coming. Well, I perceive how he defended himself. I perceive a weakness. I perceive what spell to cast. Yeah. Jude says perception has been first skill I cut from my game design. It usually just leads to bad play habits. Nah, I don't know if you need to go that far. It's difficult to it's very difficult to design games around social structures when because we as human beings tend to fall into consensus behavior and then we think consensus behavior is truism when it isn't, right? It's just it's the you're pronouncing something wrong and it's not incorrect. It's pronunciation by consensus because once the consensus changes, pronunciations change. So that's even the people who make the rules on things like pronunciations change by consensus, right? That's why we always get new words in like Oxford Dictionary and things like that, right? It's not people think they're right or wrong, and they're neither one is true. It's just a consensus thing, and with fifth edition being so big, the consensus is perception is everything, and we just need to socially change the behavior. I don't think rules will change that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that description. Yeah, Rickard says GMing is like DJing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You play the songs that people want to dance to, but you're also creating the vibe for the venue for that night as well. Sometimes you have to focus on the floor at the others on the vibe, right? Like knowing when to slow the music down because there's certain songs in it like that a DJ will play that kind of it is a audio cue for us to take a break in a way, and especially if you have drinks and food being served, they yes they want people to dance and enjoy themselves, but they also want them to spend money, buy drinks, socialize, talk, and that's why a lot of times with DJs they'll have that break in the middle where the volume pull the volume down a little bit, play some older less engaging songs so that you don't get the earwig and start like you know wanting to get up. You want to come back and eat and drink and socialize, and I'll buy you a drink and then all of a sudden at a certain point, boom, boom, we'll bring it back up again. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And the same thing goes with role playing. Like some players just like to go shopping. That it's their thing, and if you don't give them something to break out of that analysis paralysis. We in real life don't want to make mistakes, and we play our characters as sometimes as the our epitomized self. Uh, Almost every character I've ever made is has all attributes better than I ever could have, right? They're far more skilled and faster and smarter and stronger and more intelligent and brilliant and good looking and social and everything, blah, blah, right? So we despise, sometimes we despise failing to the point of not doing anything. I don't want to go through this blast door because I might get killed or assassinated or captured or paralyzed or lose a hit point or two or lose some of that good sweet you know um materials that I purchased when we did our shopping spree last game session for 5 hours, right? Like it's that kind of thing. Dan King says perception being cut, that sucks for Daredevil. Though OSR playing was always, there was no perception skill. You just described what you were trying to do, and then the dungeon master, if they were fair, would tell you what happened. But we're going down a rabbit hole. Now, let's see. Rickard says, I feel it's more about making their role mean something in the narrative. Me too. If they get an effect they're happy with the role, then they don't need to be treasure a good effect really. Yes, if when the die when more die rolls matter, players glom onto that like, hey, I did a good thing, right? Rather than just having random die rolls. That especially uh, a strangeism in role playing is player. You've got four players. The first player makes a die roll and fails, and then three other players rabbit jump onto that die roll to see if they can make it, which makes the person who failed the roll feel bad about it and then makes them insignificant when other people try to roll in and make, it's the wizard that fails the art the history check and then the barbarian makes it, right? Don't jump on the rabbit. But Druden responds with true, a pratagem cannot be changed with rules alone, but I can make a step in the direction I would like to see with my own systems, since doing nothing will also change nothing. I agree with that. Um, I think it's just a matter of things come in phases through the community. It's like we pick it up through osmosis, consensus behavior, right? And we pick that up. WotC created a consensus movement, if you think about it. People fleeing to Pathfinder 2E and three action systems and going to other role playing games and finding out that that uh, which I think this is a good thing. People are realizing that there are other games that do things in different ways. We consensus behavior has always been that we when you're new to role playing, we love Dungeons and Dragons. You get a couple of weeks or months or years under your belt, and we all start going like my top five things I hate are alignment and hit points and armor class and stuff. You know what I mean? We always get to that point where we're like, that armor class doesn't make sense, or rather, the way it's described and the way the mechanism works are two different things. The same way with hit points. Hit points, the mechanism and the semantics of the verbalization of it are two different things. It's really weird. TA says, raise the tempo and drive off the music so people get more active while the owner shuts off the AC and raise the price of the bottles of water and shuts off the cold water to the sinks. Oh, that's a dystopian. Very dystopian. Yeah, Ayan says, to quote one of my players, role playing is make believe and pretend, and I can pretend to be as brave as my character. Hell yeah. Yeah, yeah. Good point. Oh man. So okay, like Rickard says, I think the main problem with perception is that it's evergreen. It feels good to roll on it because it's the skill most likely to come up, and thus let the players engage with the game. It's a problem with how we as GMs create engaging roles, and less so with the mechanics themselves. So we also tend to forget related skills and just rely on perception because it's easy. Yeah. And lastly, um, Johansson says it's the notice me senpai meme, but in actual effect, because the GM is the game, and if the GM shines the spotlight on their role, they feel engaged, and so we GMs just um, and we GMs just to be happy using perception. Yeah, like I said, it's it is very nerve wracking running games. It's like writing. We forget that role playing is almost like writing a movie in real time. It's improv Hollywood. We all have in our head the amazing things that are going to happen in this game. Each of us in our own heads, and we try to express that through various means. We've got our character sheets, and we're describing environments, and the players are engaging in it, and we have this idealized version of what should happen. But there's no uh, take backsies. There's no redos. There's no editing room. It's first come first serve, right? And it is literally impossible to make a perfect movie with zero edits. You don't just have people show up and go, "All right, guys, we don't have a storyboard or anything. We don't have." You've all decided what your actors are going to do without interacting with each other, and go. Right. So what we need some easy tricks. Perception just happens to be one of the things that fell into that mechanical thing that became an easy trick to alleviate us of the tension of trying to create the perfect movie, right? I don't know what to do. Make a perception check, right? We go into the deep valley. What do we notice? uh um uh Right. It's that kind of thing, especially when you're unprepared, you're nervous. You have players who are um, pushing the boundaries. A lot of players will see a map, and the first thing they want to do is go to the edges. you know, um, so it's that kind of thing. Rickard says this is actually another reason why I have my players' skills written down on my GM screen. Then I can always remind them of what they're good at, so I can craft better checks. I do a similar thing, but I kind of do it with background, like like y- characters that have a propensity for having a skill with something. So you've got like um let's go with a classic um far future gaming group, right? We've got the weaponized person who's like the bounty hunter. They're like the space marine. We've got the scientist or the medic. We have the leader who's in control of everything. We've got the breaking and entering expert that does the hacking. Maybe we have somebody power armor or gadgets or whatever. And I like the dead body. Hey, your warrior character who's been in war knows that the dead bodies were killed by something, may mean that they don't even have forensic skill. They don't, their intelligence skill isn't very high. They just all physical, all weaponry, all, roided out muscle. But I will default to move the spotlight around. I'll default to different characters. Hey, hacker, you notice there's something, wrong with the computer system. Hey, warrior character, you know about the dead bodies and the creatures or something. Hey, medic, you did notice that in, um, whatever. Like I'll do that a lot. So it's kind of like skill and background, and I'll do that for a character that has a like oh, that locket around the neck of your character or that special stone. You notice that exact stone that's here being used as a energy fuel or something, and it's like, oh, that special thing on my character relates to the story, and it makes them feel good. It's like spotlighting. Ta says you are just arguing semantics. You know what I mean. And are you being anti-semantic? I don't make me call the Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, not anti-Semitic, anti-semantic. Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, we're going to hard pivot away from this. Anne says this is rooted in my belief that challenges in the end feel more rewarding. Um, yeah, uh, in terms of this is why I love. I'm such a proponent of exploration, dead gods and living worlds being part of this exploration thing, um, because many role playing games have a hard focus on damage dealing and damage survival. And for example, there is the consensus that characters only advance if they kill creatures and they only get experience points for creatures they murdered is not a real thing. That's never really been in the rules. That is just a consensus belief that has expanded far past the actual rules themselves. Um, I I can go back and find it. I actually haven't. I'd have to search a little bit, but I actually copy and pasted the entire, like, this is from 1995 DMG that has the thing about experience points and exploration and encounters, and nowhere in it says that it's only when you kill monsters, but consensus has made that. And that's another thing where um, in terms of game design and using creating dynamic elements in your world, I love exploration because it's an easy way to go, hey, the rule is wherever you go, that's where you're at, right? And delving into the strange places that players can go allows us to move that spotlight around. It allows us to. There are no rules in any role playing game system I've ever done, and I'm an old dude that has ever told you exactly how many skill checks, how many skill rolls, and for what reasons. Because, like driving, we really don't know how many driving rolls we're making for a role playing game. That's all decided by game masters, storytellers, players' engagement, tension, um, tension created by time or resource expenditure or energy or social structures that are involved in it. Every time we see a television show where our main character is trying to navigate uh, a dinner party, when they engage a new person, maybe that's when a skill check is made. Or maybe they go to the dinner party and there really are no skill checks, but someone beckons them to go into a side room. Maybe that's where the skill check is made. When you're driving to and from work, do you make one skill check, or you're not making any really until a ball rolls in the street and a kid goes after it, or someone cuts you off in traffic, or the light gets ready to turn yellow, and do you hit the gas and run through it, or do you slam the brakes, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's very fluid, and I think exploration, to me, and exploration could be physically climbing, jumping, swimming, whatever, moving furniture, looking behind corners, or it could just be traveling, or it could be looking at sensors, it could be re-entry programs, whatever. Those are ways for us to have players move the spotlight around based on their what's written on the character sheet, the mechanical parts, and then the narrative parts, their role playing, their engagement with the system. So that I'm off my soapbox. Yeah, and then keeps trying to pivot us back again. Like, are these checks we use when investigating a living planet? Yeah, you're not going to come in orbit and go, I make a perception check about the entire planet. Right? Yeah, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to investigate. You're going to have to go down there. You're going to have to poke and prod and see what the hell's going on. Yeah, TA says this living world could be applied to a whole universe where it is unaware of anything outside itself, like a blinded deaf god that wants to know what is outside of itself, so it makes us sentient to explore outside itself and find out what is out there. I used to hold tight to a living universe, and we are the mechanism that a living universe sees and feels. So yeah, yeah. Yeah. Rico says, to clarify, I remind myself as the player, as the GM, of what skills my players are good at. If you write a story, you don't create a protagonist who's crap at politics in a political thriller to solve it with politics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. they got to be good at the thing that they're good at is the thing that they tend to notice more and gravitate towards, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Yep. 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 Absolutely. Mm-mm-mm. No. 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 Uh, Yeah, Tia says you are only aware of the ones that the decision is to actually run it, just like just like not being aware of how often people might turn without a signal. Only the ones that actually have done so before you. Yeah, yeah, yes. When it comes to driving, yeah, I mean you could and mind you you'd have to gamify real life. I was just using that as an example of the difficulties of gamifying real life, right? So yes, it's the things that we're good at we tend to notice more, or at least fall to the background because we don't notice it. How many times have people traveled to and from a place that they've done so much that you forgot that you actually did the thing? I've come home and driven home from work and then forgot that I did it. I was just tuned out. Got home and was just like, wait, what? Yeah. Yeah, while you're driving, you have no idea how often someone is making a decision actively to not run a red light because of how pressed for time they might be. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Mm-mm-mm. All right. So we diverged off, which we often do here on these Future Fridays. I, I had been trying to think of some subjects that we can talk about, like, for example, AI systems now, which they're not really AI systems. They're actually just predictive systems now, but it's pretty ridiculous um how much human beings are 8 billion people in the world and we all think that we're the only ones in it, and how intrusive and abusive these systems can be. I would like to it then we'll start getting the armchairing, and this is pretty much a I want to relegate this to keep this into tabletop role playing. um I had been considering maybe diving a little bit deeper. I know Deadman would prefer me to do this, diving into some of the game mechanics of games that could use some love, like Eclipse Phase and some of these other science fiction games. There's plenty of medieval pseudo medieval style games being created now, with clones. Level Up Fifth Edition, of course, is one of those clones I've got right in front of me. But there's others. Tales of the Valiant's coming out. MCDM is making their own. Dagger Hearts coming out with Critical Role. So we'll get into those as they go on. I don't really want to get into playtest part of it because it's playtest material, and I'm not really a playtest channel. But we'll find some other things to do. I do want to give some love to some more science fiction games. I might have to spend some money to get some more, although I've got plenty. What's the new one coming up? Cities Without Numbers coming up. Um, Vast Grim. I'm hopefully the Vast Grim rules will come out. I'll be able to get the PDFs on that before the physical books come out. Things like that. So yeah. When he says ruling versus rules, impress upon the players they can try anything and make up a DC based on what stats you think it'll apply. Can climb a tree, somersault off of it, and backstab the giant with my double swords. All right, Dritz. Yeah, Daggerheart sounds like it'll stab you right in the feels. Maybe, maybe. Pretty. I don't know. I don't know. I've got opinions. Yeah, TA says I would still love getting together and running a game, um, that we save and input into Chat GPT for a script and use that to make a deep fake movie out of it. Hey, you'd never know. Well, most role playing scenarios don't translate well at all to narrative, right? Very rarely do these things come out. Narrative tends to have ebb and flow and dynamics and lead into yeah, I don't know. Vox Machina was not. They didn't copy and paste things. they cut out a lot of asides and everything to make that animated show what it is. So TA says, well, although responds and said, would be kind of cool to be the first to do it, since I see it possibly becoming how Hollywood will end up moving to. Well, that's a given. They're gonna. Well, everyone thinks it's the new big thing, but just a week of playing with Chat GPT is the fact that it hasn't learned to get out of the um, it hasn't learned to get out of the valley. What I mean is that it's a system that scrapes information and then gives us a generalization, and it very much does not want to go to the niche ends of the bell curve. It wants to dive down to the bottom of the bell curve, and that's only going to last so long until the same words in the same scripts. There was one action movie I saw, and the dialogue itself was so predictable it just made my eyes roll. Like like it's action movie. Pick any action movie where everyone gets their guns and loads up. They all look at each other, and someone says, "Let's do this." Right? I, it's so cliche that someone's going to be like, look at their friends and in the heat of battle and go, "Hey, let's do this. Let's roll." Right? And you're going like, I roll like, oh, here we go. Right. Rickard says, "I'll one up that. Hollywood will become obsolete when you get AIs who can generate movies on the fly." Yeah, uh, yeah. If they're able, they scrape together the air quotes perfect looking cast, and then digitally create them, and then create dialogue, and then all the dialogue starts sounding the same, and all. It's kind of like it's the I hate to say that it's the Victoria's Secreting of a thing where the so-called beautiful models all tend to look the same, so they actually don't look beautiful. And it's just in my head canon. It's like they don't look good anymore because they look clonish, and it's weird because if you keep finding the same people and saying the same words and looking the same, after a while, my brain just like it starts to zone out, and it's just like another bowl of vanilla ice cream with nothing in it, and it's like it tastes good, but yeah, last action hero, yeah. Drew's yeah, Drew's like, let's do this. I'm more of a here goes nothing kind of person. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some we've seen we can disagree on a lot of things, but I there's a shit ton more stuff we agree on. And the fact that with the writer's strike now happening in the States, in Hollywood, and the writer's strike, we know we're going to get more reality shows. We know that we're going to get like crappy scripts coming up, and it's just, oh, we hear the same dialogue over and over again. Oh. Rickard says, think about it. The holodeck from Star Trek isn't that far away from where we're heading. 3D systems created that people want. Yeah, I think AI would do us justice if we could have a blank AI and then program it with ourselves. Although, then we'll have paperclip wars or paperclip generation wars. Yeah. Anyway, N King says the Victoria's Secret thing, it's also related to models being insanely airbrushed. Not to get too graphic, but some Playboy shoots, the girls almost look creepy sometimes. Yeah, airbrush photo shoot. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, talking about consensus again, this is why young people are being more and more. I'm going to use the incorrect word, traumatized, but uh, filters, airbrushing, photoshopping has become such a normal thing on like Instagram and Instagram like accounts that young people don't are trying to achieve a an ideal that is physically impossible to get to, and so that means that everybody falls short of of uh of perfection, you know. Hollywood could fire the writers and get better scripts from Chat GPT. They think so, but Chat GPT won't give you, it doesn't give you originality literally. Like we sometimes think scripts are terrible because they're written by a committee. Chat GPT is even worse because it takes a committee of hundreds of thousands, millions of um uh interactive words and just boils it down to the most common ones that we find. So yeah, it just predicts the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And predictive elements are like, oh, there's an 86% chance we're going to say head them up, roll them out when the hero gets together, right? Let's do this. Here goes nothing. Yeah. Right. Ha. Yeah. Elon. Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, Rickard says maybe 80 to 9% of the scripts because there are a lot of unoriginal scripts out there, and that has to deal with money, right? How many times, how many people um, take their money and invest it in things that are outside the bell curve? You know, it's if you were to start a business, you would probably make more money creating yet another pizza restaurant than you would having a restaurant that has scrambled ostrich eggs, right? Thank you very much there. Apologize for that. So maybe create a three-word rule for the game, like look no hands, followed by the next line being call an ambulance. Yeah, yes, yeah, yes. How the percentage chance that the next line is call an ambulance is less likely to be given by Chat GPT if someone says look no hands, right? Yeah. Sorry, I got an image of that. Oh man. That's cool. But anyway, guys, got to get out of here. Got to get out of this place. I don't know when I'll ever get back. Not sure what we're going to talk about next week. I'd like to get into some gaming news, but and that's actually going to probably draw more attention to the channel. But I don't want to be a I don't I I don't want to be a I don't want to be a an SEO hunter, and that's probably what would happen. So, um, but yeah, like Rickard says, and let's not forget, AI might not be able to come up with 100% original ideas, but we're pretty bad at it as well. We, just as the AI, tend to create mashups and derivative works with a twist. Yep, yeah, we do, and because we are, that's how our brains work, right? We we have categories for survival, and we have definitions for the things in those categories, and so we prefer a world where we can define things in it, and scripts that don't follow rising tension, scripts that don't follow the hero's journey, stories that don't follow the norm make it does a thing in our brain that clicks, that goes, that's, it doesn't feel right when you hear or see or something like that. Yeah, it's A, but with Y set in a Z like world. Yep, yep, yeah. We need to focus on how new is the thing that the old ideas put together have created, like Tesla combining radio waves and automated induction to make remote controllable boats. Hmm. There's a lot of tech stuff. There's like battery powered planes and trying to make the batteries out of the skin of planes and things like that. Yeah, we are. Yeah, Drew. We are absolutely pattern seekers, even when we don't want to be pattern seekers, or we will crush chaos into a pattern, whether the chaos likes it or not. We do that with human beings. We like to categorize human beings because we when human beings fall into categories we don't understand, we have to create a category for it or push them into a category we already have. So yeah. It's very difficult for us to not categorize a thing and not define a thing, which is why I get so frustrated with like gender politics and things like that. Because for me, I'm like I I don't care in the literal sense. Like 99% of my interactions with other human beings has so little to do with gender that I really don't care. I need my oil changed. I like my food. I'm going to go to the store and I might be a person there at the counter. I'm going to have an eye appointment next week. That's why I'm not wearing my glasses any longer. There's lots of things in my life. Gender is almost a near zero, except for my wife, and that's it. So I don't understand people's obsession with it, but we like categories and we like to put people into categories, and we ourselves like to categorize ourselves, even if we don't have a category that defines ourselves. We're just like when a person travels the world to find themselves, they're trying to look for categories, as opposed to just going like, well, I'm just me, and everybody have a great day. Wondering if AI could do a better job than the inexperienced writers of Rings of Power. Ow. Yeah, forcing patterns out of chaos is how we get energy able to be used. That's true. That's very true. Yeah, that's true. We do it. We do make patterns out of energy, right? Solar energy, electrical energy. Yep, like forcing control over fire to have a fire pit versus a forest fire. Yep, we do. We do. That's why it's a good thing that we have it. It's just that we apply it to everything in life, as opposed to like my wife gets frustrated because like if there's something I don't know, sometimes I just don't care to know further what it is. And she's just like, yeah, but what is that thing? And I'm like, I don't know. It exists and I don't know what it is. Great. Yeah. Yeah, most people don't care except the ones making a huge deal of it. They create the market for it. Yep. There's always markets for these things and it'll always happen, right? Like there's always entrepreneurship, and once we people forget that there are other people who are just like um, uh, people that are for and against things uh, create a consensus to make other people go into that thing. Yeah, Wayne says don't care to me means caring enough to have gone past the small stuff. Yeah, I'm very much past the small stuff. I don't have enough energy. It's not I don't care. I don't have enough energy to dwell on it to make it worth my time to worry about it. There are people who are just like, I can't believe that guy's wearing a dress, and I'm just like, who gives a shit, right? Like in the next 10 minutes, my bills haven't changed, and honestly, that's all I care about, right? My tax burden, my health has not changed. Change the oil in my car, and then I pay you money for your expert service. Thank you. Right? See ya. I'll probably never see you again. Have a great day. Hope your life is perfect so that you don't poison the rest of us. That's all I care about. Right? Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I look at things, which is terrible because I I like to discover things. Like I like people and I like to discover people and who they are and what they're about. But like, do I care? Like, do I have an opinion about what they're about? I don't care. I don't I don't know. It's um 10 years from now, 10 years in the past, 20 years from now, 20 years in the past, if you keep spreading that out, everything we're about today has doesn't apply to those ages, right? So whatever we think we're willing to die for today won't matter in the future. And in the past, there are people who are willing to die for things that today we look at as ridiculous. So I live today like I live it 20, 30 years in the past and future. At a certain point, it's not going to matter. Um, it won't. So I'm living the I live the future today. What are you worried about? What do you? It literally is not going to affect your life. In to almost a degree to the point where it's irrelevant. So I think of it of a lot of things that people consider to be political today as irrelevant on either side, right? Why are you? I don't want to expend the energy. I'm too tired, right? I just want to have people that I care about, and I don't care where you came from or what you are. If you are value added to me, you're in my group. That's what I care about. Yeah. I do care about that. That's my point, right? Like I don't I guess I don't expend energy about making people to be accepted because I'm already there. Like I don't have a difference in like one thing versus another. Um, y- if people that believe in, um, it's easy to believe in things when they're easy. It's difficult to believe in things when they're hard. Um, an example of that would be that the freedom I have to believe what I want is the freedom that hate groups like the KKK and exist in the United States. I wish they didn't exist, but I'm intelligent enough and I believe in freedom enough that people have the freedom to hate me. And I would rather live in a world where people are free to do those things because then they're free to do the opposite. And people have think they have beliefs, but they aren't as true to their beliefs as they believe. It's always asterisks. I believe in freedom except for. I believe in free speech except for. I believe in these things except for. And I there's only people that have asterisks next to things. I'm just like, go away. Stop talking, please. Yeah, I gotta head off. I gotta get out of here. My job is kind of around the corner from me. I can't. Well, I could walk there. It might take me about a half hour, uh, ish. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Rickard needs to pee. Yeah. We're gonna end it on that one. Yeah, the tolerance paradox is real though. It is, especially here in this country. Oh my god. Yeah. Guys, Rickard needs to pee. Everybody have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace. Yeah. Oh no, I'm with you there, Wayne. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I mean, right? Everybody has an asterisk next to the things that they say, everywhere. Guys, have a great one. I will see thee later. Peace.